record this session? Sorry, Shazim, go ahead. Yeah, it's recording now.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Walaikum salam.
Anke mari ke Eid Mubarak juku bhi join kiya hai California adati local juku bhi join kiya hai anke mari ke Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Aj pa bera thiya aj pa bera thiya halo pa hath jodi ane Allah watanu dua karje ke duniya mein juku bhi musibat hali riyoi I band thi vine.
Amin.
So मुके please join मुके join करो हाथ जोड़ीने पा दुआ करजे अल्लाह वटानु या अल्लाह या गफूर रहीम या अल्लाह पैलेस्टाइन में कश्मीर में चाइना में अने मड़ी को राजू को भी जुल्म हली रिया या अल्लाह असां जी मुसलमान बा भेण ते या अल्लाह इन जी मुसीबत हल करो या अल्लाह मस्जिदुल अक्सा मथे जुको जुल्म थिया या अल्लाह ऐं आंजी रहमत से ऐं बचायो या अल्लाह जुको कोविड जी बीमारी जी वजह से असां जी मस्जिद जा दरवाजा बंद थी विया या अल्लाह ऐं खोली दियो या अल्लाह इबादत जा दरवाजा खोली दियो या अल्लाह जज़ाकल्लाह खैरन या अल्लाह असां के रमजान नसीब किया या अल्लाह रमजान में जो इबादत किया आयो दिनायो रोजा रखिया आयो या अल्लाह ऐं कबूल कर जा या अल्लाह असां के जिंदगी दी जा असां के आवते वारे रमजान नसीब थे या अल्लाह या गफूर रहीम असां के बियो मौको दी जा या अल्लाह इबादत करन या अल्लाह या गफूर रहीम जुको बीमारी या अल्लाह इने के शिफायत दी में जगह दी जा इने जा कब्र जा सवाल आसान कर जा या अल्लाह जी बच्चे के नेक नमाजी अने बणी गनी ने होशियार कर जा या अल्लाह असां जी बच्चे के बणी गनी ने होशियार कर जा या अल्लाह असां जी बच्चे जा अने दीरे जा नसीब सारा कर जा या अल्लाह असां जी बच्चे के तौफीक दी जा के इन जा माइतरे जा हक रखे या अल्लाह असां के नेक नमाजी बनायो या अल्लाह असां के जहन्नम जी आग में जा बचाए जा या अल्लाह ऐं गफूर रहीम या अल्लाह असां के आं सिवाय कोई जो मोहताज न कर जा या अल्लाह اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال محمد وبارك وسلم عليه اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام وعليك يجي السلام وعليك انت الدار السلام رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الفقر وقنا عذاب الدين لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هنبا إلا فرجته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا ميتا إلا رحمته عباد الله رحمتك الله إن الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Ameen. Wonderful duas, Shazim. Thank you so much. Nesachikala, in time we have to remember our Muslims that are suffering all over the world. Dr. Faryal, thank you very much for joining. We've been expecting you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we're just moving on with the program, and just to let everybody know, this program is recorded. Those who joined late, Eid Mubarak from all of us here. We've had the Eid Mubaraks from everyone already done. So I will now move on to Adamba. Adamba, over to you. We'll talk about Eid.
Okay, Jazakallah. Thank you, Farhan bhai. My dear brothers, sisters, children and elders, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. मणी के ना पहले मणी के ईद जी मुबारक थी है अल्लाह पाक पांजी मणी जी जिंदगी में खुशियों नसीब करे ने ईमान मते कायम रखे माशाल्लाह शाजिम माशाल्लाह खासी दुआ करें जो को भी अल्लाह ताला हनी के कबूल ने मंजूर करे
आमीन
ईद के हवाले से हम आके बोतरे हदीस इंशाल्लाह नरेट कइंदो से ने वी विल टॉक अबाउट द करंट सिचुएशन आल्सो इन इस्लाम अबाउट ईद Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrate हम कोशिश कइंदो से जी लास्ट टाइम पे फरहान चावा के टॉक इन इंग्लिश एंड आल्सो कच्छी पंहिंजा सीनियर से जो को कच्छ उर्दू का इंग्लिश नथा समझे त पा कच्छी में भी जरा गाल कइंदासी इंशाल्लाह हदीस प्रोफेट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम जी के जॾे रमज़ान जो महीनो ख़त्म थिए थो त अल्लाह सुब्हानहू ताला पंहिंजे फ़रिश्ते खे पुछनि था कि पंहिंजे के जेको मुंहिंजा फॉलोवर्स आहिनि रमज़ान जे महीने में रोज़ा रखिया, इफ़्तारी कया, रुकू कया, सुजूद कया, क़यामुल लैल कया, इस्तग़फ़ार कया, ऐं इन खे हिकिड़ो गिफ्ट ॾियां। त फ़रिश्ता मिड़ई चता या अल्लाह ऐं गफ़ूरुर रहीम आहियो, जे कुदरत में सभु कुझु आहे। अल्लाह ताला फरमाईं था जेको बि जेतिरी नेक नियती से जेको बि मिड़े कया हुआ ऐं इन जी मिणी जी बख़्शिश करायां थो, इन जी मग़फ़िरत कयां थो। तो अल्लाह पाक से उम्मीद है ही जय पाके हो पाए कि अल्लाह पाक पाकी मणी के मग़फ़िरत फरमाए, पांजे मिणे गुनाह के माफ़ करे इंशाअल्लाह। बी हदीस हिकिड़ी इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट है कि ऑब्वियसली ईद जो जेको टाइम हली रहियो आहे ने हिकिड़े दफ़ा प्रोफेट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ईद जी नमाज़ जे बाद रस्ते में वेंदा हुआ त ही सॉ अ चाइल्ड, ही वाज क्राइंग, तो ही वेंट एंड आस्क्ड हिम कि ऐं तूं कुला रोए तो बेटा, तो ई चाऊं ऑर्फन नहीं है, यतीम आहियां, मुंहिंजा माउ पीउ नहीं, ॿेड़े बच्चा ख़ुशी मनाए रहिया आहिनि ने आउं जेको आहे एकलो आहियां। प्रोफेट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम माशाअल्लाह ही इज़ रहमतुल लिल आलमीन पंहिंजे घरे खणी विया। हज़रत उम्मुल मोमिनीन आयशा सिद्दीक़ा के चया कि इन बच्चे जी क्लीन कयो, इनके वेंजारे सिंजारे नवा कपड़ा पहिराया, माशाअल्लाह सॼो ॾींहुं पिनबेरो रखिया ने जो ख़्याल ने करे रखिया। ऑब्वियसली हाणे ये चीज़ों मड़े पा मथे भी लागू थी थी इम्प्लीमेंट थी पंहिंजी लाइफ में। कुरान ने हदीस में कोई अहिड़ी चीज़ न आहे जेको इन जी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में भी डिफरेंट हूंदी। हाणे पाके अॼुकल्ह जे ज़माने में ऑब्वियसली पाण केॾा रस्ते में वेंदा हुआसीं, पाके में बि ऑर्फन न यतीम न मिले, लेकिन इन जो मतलब ये न है कि अल्लाह ना करे हदीस एंड कुरान इज रॉन्ग। What we can do, we can implement this thing according to current situation. The current situation, mashallah, everybody knows and everybody is aware, technology है, बड़े media है। एवर जो I will talk about the humanitarian part of it, not a political issue. पाके ख़बर है कि एवर फ़लस्तीन में कुरो थी रहियो आहे, पंहिंजे बचे मथे मुसलमाने मथे ज़ुल्म थी रहियो आहे। पां की करे त नथा सघूं, मोस्टली पाछू त पां दुआ कयूं अल्लाह मड़े ख़ासो करे ख़ैर करे, यू नो, लेकिन पां कहिड़ी रीति में पार्टिसिपेट करे सघां तो ई पां खे छू था कि जेको प्रोफेट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम जी हदीस है इनके पां रिलेट कयूं आजकल जे ज़माने से। सो देयर आर नंबर ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, इस्लामिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ऐं वॉलंटियरी जेको कमु कयूं था, जेको ह्यूमैनिटेरियन कॉज लाइ कयूं था, जेको यमन में ऐं पैलेस्टाइन में ऐं रोहिंग्या में ऐं सीरिया में ऐं घणी जॻह ते कयूं था। पांजी कोशिश ये थियणु खपे पां कीअं नथा करे सघूं त पां वी शुड ट्राई टू सपोर्ट देम, वी शुड लुक इनटू देयर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में नेरियूं इन जी सिचुएशन नेरियूं। देयर आर नंबर ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, आई डोंट वांट टू नेम एनीबॉडी और प्रमोट एनीवन, पां पे नेरियूं इन के नेरियूं कुरो कुरो ई कम करी रही आई, यतीमे जी गरीब जी कड़ी ते हेल्प कई था, पां इन के सपोर्ट करियूं। फॉर एग्जांपल कि अगर देयर इज समबडी देयर हु इज हेल्पिंग a madrasa in India for the orphans, try to help them. There are people in Africa, try to help them. Pakistan, Kashmir, जड़ा भी हैं जो ह्यूमैनिटेरियन कॉस्ट कम करिए था, मेहनत करिए था, इन्हीं के पाके हेल्प करनी खपे। ये जो कोई यतीमे ने मिस्कीने की हेल्प करिए था, in a way we are fulfilling the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which has a great reward for all of us. अब अगर एक एग्जांपल लिया तो अगेन नॉट नेमिंग एनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, माशाल्लाह असां एडा सीरिया जो प्रॉब्लम जड़े थियो हो तो वन ऑफ आवर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वी अरेंज अ वेरी फंड रेजिंग प्रोग्राम, we raise almost $100,000 mashallah, and we work with other organization in the world together. ने सीरिया ने टर्की जी बॉर्डर मथे माशाल्लाह वो ऑर्फन्स जो हुआ उन्हीं ला करे हाउस बिल्ड कया वासी। At the same time, when there was a problem in Rohingya, our people went there and believe me, Madu Pinje Kharche Soda Viava, we raised fund against more than $125,000. Noda Via Rohingya mein we need help kya. So mujo message आज जो ई है पांच महीला कि Alhamdulillah we are living in a very fortunate countries. $500,000 not a big deal for us. पांच जितरो $100 भी वे जितरो भी वे पांच कोशिश कयूं कि people should try to have this organization which are doing the humanitarian cause. पांजी ईद जो एगो ईद मैसेज है ना, पांजी ईद जो खुशी ईद होगी कि पां इन्हीं के हेल्प करे सको। हदीस ऑफ प्रोफेट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम अगेन इज द सेम थिंग कि पां जो मुसलमान नहीं हो, मुसलमानी जे पेन के फील कयूं ने, अगर पां फील न था कयूं तो वी आर नॉट ट्रू मुस्लिम्स, यू नो। So this is my message for the Eid. Alhamdulillah, Allah Pak Pak Eid dinne khushi dinne. We should celebrate whatever. The celebration, one of the best ways to thank Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and work for all these causes what are there. I was talking to one of my friends in Australia yesterday. Eid ji gal thindi vi. Tache yaar Adam bhai, you know Eid ka din hai, lekin jo Palestine mein jo ho raha hai na, mera dil nahi ho raha tha. Maine na naye kapde nahi pehne, purane kapde pehne. You know, this is the feeling we should have for our Muslim brothers and sisters. Paki ne ta kare so to at least pa feel kari honi la kare. Jo ko support kare saku ta pa support kari hu. We should not take life as granted. I mean, life is too short. We should try our best. And pa neri na si कि पा जडे ई चीजों हेल्प कयूं था एक कॉस्ट ला करे जितनी हेल्प कयूं था पाके ईद करना भी वधारे दिल में पांजे खुशी थी थी ने पांजे माइंड ने पांजे सोल के जो है कितनी पाके फील थी तो ई पाके मणि के इंशाल्लाह we will feel it, you know. So believe me, try your best, whatever we can do, be practical in life. This is my message for the Eid. Jazakallah Farhan bhai. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam. Adamba, that was so wonderful. Thank you so much. Ne sachi gal hai. Panja, you know, Musalman sari dunya mein safar kaye tha, right? Ne, as you said, we cannot promote any particular organization, but organizations ain jiki we feel ke at least maximum paisa jiki diota donation mein goes towards the end user. Biya jiki ain Anija, they take away 50%, 60%, 80% of your donation to just administrative costs. The nenu kape when you're choosing the right kind of organization to donate. It is difficult sometimes, but any website mein likhenda kitro cost administration mein to kitro cost you know the victims they are going to. Ji Adamba.
Yeah, I'm सही गाल कहा 50% कहीं था पर mostly पाजी Muslim organization नहीं ना यानी जो कोई वो नहीं हुए and there are a number of organizations there mashallah and they're doing a great job, believe me. So rather than going for I'm not saying non-Muslim but पाजी Muslim organization नहीं नीचे की overheads नहीं आवे and they're so dedicated even पिंजे खर्चे से विचारा विने था आप ने I have witnessed this, you know.
Thank you, Adamba. And you're right. Panja Musalman majority of them, and he definitely doing this with their heart, and it's going directly to the cause. I agree. No, I just wanted to let everyone know here that choose your.
Adamba, excuse me. Adamba, जो contact रखचा.
जी इंशाल्लाह.
तो पाके हलाई नुए help तो पालाई सगवां जे contact मत.
जी जज़ाकल्लाह. Anytime I'm available 24 hours.
Sorry, Afara.
No problem. Thank you for that. Adamba, yes, he's available anytime. Correct. Messages 3 wage subuh jo messages halayan tha to khabar hai he's available every time, anytime. Okay, Ane, thank you very much, Majawi. That was a very good start to this program. Inshallah, we will now start off with Dr. Faryal, who has taken time to join us from Saudi. And that, you know, the background I have, she says that's where she lives. So she's very lucky to be in quarantine in such a place. So, Dr. Faryal, over to you.
Thank you so much. Jazakallah, Adam, Uncle Farhan, Shazim, everyone. It's really lovely to see everybody. Eid Mubarak to all of you, wherever you are. It's lovely to see people that are like my parents' age and also people that I grew up with that I haven't seen in so long and some of the younger folks. So it's really wonderful. Thank you for your efforts, Farhan. If I may, I'm just going to request everyone, if you're not muted, please mute yourself just so that it doesn't interfere with the presentation. If that's okay, please. You can leave the videos on. And if you have any questions, definitely please type them or just unmute yourself and ask the question. How did you all like the last presentation? I hope it was, just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Let me know how it was and if you understood it well and it wasn't too crazy. I know that I have to, you know, show you some of the scientific stuff when I'm speaking about medical things. But certainly if you have any questions, please ask. So today I've been requested to do a talk about obviously COVID, which is what we're living with going on now 18 months. And just, you know, what we can do from a natural medicine perspective to help ourselves to keep our immunity and our health as robust and as strong as possible, so that we can deal with this virus if we contract it and recover from it. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm a naturopathic doctor. I've been in practice for 17 years. I practiced in Canada for 10 years, and then we married my husband, who's South African, and practiced in South Africa for a number of years, then practiced in Dubai, where I'm still practicing, and I'm sort of seeing patients between South Africa and the Middle East. And yes, I'm sitting in Saudi Arabia right now, but I think Farhan is sitting in Zanzibar still since the last session. I think he's still in Zanzibar, it looks like. So good for you.
One can hope, yes.
Yeah, it's all about visualization, you know, that's very important for our mental health. So I do have a presentation. I took some time to create something for you guys because I think it's always nice to be able to show you something. And I need Farhan to please let me share the screen. So as I said, the presentation is going to focus on what we can do from a natural medicine perspective. Okay, again, the difference between how I practice and a conventional medical doctor practices is that I'm always looking to uncover the root cause of whatever the ailment is. And I'm also, you know, looking to use natural medicines and natural therapies because we come from nature. So whatever we use that comes from nature, our body will recognize it and our body will be able to mount a response. Okay. So can you guys see the screen? If you cannot, please let me know.
Yes, we can see the screen and it's not yet in presentation mode.
I'm not trying to figure out how to do that. Just give me a second.
Yep.
Okay, let me just, sorry guys, sometimes I'm not as tech savvy as I'd like to be. Okay, how's that?
We can see that now, thank you.
I think, yeah, perfect. So again, if you need to ask me a question, you can just do it through the chat. Farhan, I'm sure you're moderating that, or just ask the question. And
yeah, so I
we
am
are going
moderating.
to,
Yeah, so I am
okay,
moderating.
great.
If anyone has any questions, please type it in the chat. Otherwise, we can wait until the end of the session.
So with COVID-19, as we all know, it is one of the coronaviruses. Okay, I will discuss that a little bit just so that we can understand how this virus is actually creating the damage that it's creating and causing so much havoc. So the objectives for my talk today are to discuss how it actually infects an individual and basically takes over your immune system. We're going to talk about some of the factors that actually make the infection more severe and what kinds of groups of people might be more vulnerable to this virus. And then we're going to look at some naturopathic strategies to bolster defenses. I'm just going to speak about food as medicine, some natural medicines I'm going to highlight, and then some lifestyle things that we can do. So this presentation is by far not very in-depth because I just want to cover some basic things that all of us can start doing right away that we have access to. You know, there are much more advanced presentations that I've done, but hopefully the objective, as always when I do a talk, is what can you do after listening and watching this? What are 2 or 3 things that you can do today that you can start applying to your life today and take away from what we've discussed? So how does this virus actually enter the body? Okay, you'll see that I've got an image here on the right, just to explain a little bit what the virus looks like. Now, the coronavirus basically is a family of viruses called corona because they've got this crown-like structure on the virus, these little spikes. And you'll notice that these little red things here on the surface of the virus are called spike proteins. So COVID-19 is the cousin to some of the coronaviruses we've already experienced in the past. SARS in 2002, MERS in 2012, especially here in Saudi Arabia. It was very, very bad at that time. The only difference with this virus is it's called a novel virus because it is more deadly. It's silent and swift. It's invisible, and it's one of our greatest enemies at the moment. Okay. Now, a lot of the intervention has been focused on trying to kill the virus. What I'm going to talk about today is how we as human beings who are the host, right? This virus needs a host in order to take over the body and do what it wants to do. How can we, as the host, become inhospitable to the virus so that the virus does not last in our bodies? Okay, that's the focus. So the spike protein is what attaches to the human cell. So at the bottom here, you'll see what's called a human cell. And this thing that looks like a Y is called an ACE2 receptor. All right, I'm not going to get too technical, but just bear with me. The spike protein attaches to this ACE2 receptor. It's like a lock and key. When you have the right key to get into a lock, you're able to then unlock or lock it, open or close. Once it's attached and docked into this ACE2 receptor, it's able to unlock and gain entry into the human cell. And then it releases all of its RNA. This is the genetic material. It releases all of this DNA, RNA into the cell, into the human cell, and uses the human cell or the host cell's machinery to start multiplying. And that's how you start getting the infection, because the virus multiplies very quickly and it starts to use the body's resources to survive and to thrive and to completely take over. Now, what happens is that a lot of these ACE2 receptors are on our lungs. That's where the majority of the ACE2 receptors are. And this is why the virus is able to attach to cells of the lungs, and it destroys the cells where the gas exchange occurs, which is what leads to breathing difficulties. This is why we get shortness of breath, we get coughing, and it can progressively get worse until people actually need support. They need to be kept on a ventilator because they cannot breathe on their own. When you're infected with the COVID-19 virus, what happens to the human body is a very normal response by the immune system, which in healthy individuals causes the immune system to send all of its immune defense cells. It's like an army of cells, different kinds of cells. Some of you may know or may have heard of things like natural killer cells or macrophages or all kinds of white blood cells that are basically recruited to the area where the infection is happening. And the idea is to kill the virus. And in the process of trying to do that, there's going to be inflammation. And inflammation just means like a swelling, or you're gonna, if you've ever cut yourself or stubbed your toe, you'll know what inflammation feels like. It's a redness, it's a pain, it's swelling, it's burning, and then it resolves. This is the body's normal response to get rid of a pathogen or whatever is bothering it. Okay, so this is what should happen. Once the immune system has done its job and hopefully killed the virus and gotten rid of it, it then recovers, and then the patient recovers. However, what's happening in COVID-19, unfortunately, is that we have a lot of individuals whose immune systems are not working in a normal way. Either the immune system cannot mount an appropriate response. So then the virus is able to continue to infect and take over the body, and we're able to spread it to other people. The other scenario, which is the more common scenario, is that many individuals end up having what's called a hyper response. So what happens is the immune system actually goes into overdrive. And when it goes into overdrive, there's an uncontrolled flood of immune cells rushing to the area of the lungs. The intention is to try to help, but unfortunately what happens is it overwhelms the lungs, especially where gas exchange takes place. So we get what's called a cytokine storm. You may or may not have heard this term because cytokines are basically immune cells that are meant to go and deal with inflammation and infection and resolve it. But now we have this out of control influx of these cytokines, and it's not possible. The immune system is not able to deal with calming it down enough. So you get a severe inflammatory condition like pneumonia, shortness of breath. You get leakage into the lungs because those cells are being completely destroyed. So then the lungs fill with fluid. You will have respiratory distress. This is a respiratory distress syndrome, right? And for many unfortunate millions around the world, it has resulted in death. So I hope I still have everybody with me. If you have any questions, please feel free. This is a good time, but I just wanted to help everyone appreciate what is happening and why the lungs are so vulnerable. Please note, though, that there are ACE2 receptors in the gut, in the stomach, on the heart, in the brain, in the kidneys. And this is why we have people having other kinds of symptoms as well, not just respiratory symptoms, right? I'm sure we've heard of people who are complaining of digestive issues, stomach pain, and things like that, heart issues, because there's ACE2 receptors on those organs as well. So let's talk about which individuals or which situations create an increased risk for COVID-19. We know that there are a number of people who are going to have more severe or poorer outcomes if they contract the virus. And I wanted to touch on this because this is another area where prevention is so valuable. If you are someone or you know someone who has one of these conditions, really important to try to get a handle on things, because if they contract the virus, they're going to most probably have a worse time, a more severe outcome with this virus. So anyone who is diabetic or has poor blood sugar control or has insulin resistance. This is one of the biggest groups of people that are being very, very badly affected when they contract the virus, because having diabetes or having high blood sugar in your system already depletes your immune system because it creates acidity in the blood. It is a situation where you have a very acidic blood that is going to be the perfect recipe for attracting viruses, okay? And then remember that I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but viruses need to eat something. And the one thing they love to eat is sugar. So if you've already got this extra sugar in your system, this is a party for the virus, right? If you're able to feed them, they're going to thrive, they're going to survive, they're going to multiply, and you're going to spread the virus, and you're going to end up having a harder time resolving the infection. Another group of people that are being found to be hospitalized much more for COVID-19 infection is anyone who's obese, morbidly obese. So again, trying to get a handle on weight, I know it's really difficult. But we need to make sure that people can start working on their weight management, because this is an inflammatory condition. Cardiovascular issues are another problem. Anybody who has any kind of heart health issue, whether it's atherosclerosis, high cholesterol, you've had a heart attack, or you're, dealing with, any post-heart attack effects, high blood pressure that may or may not be well controlled. Anything to do with heart problems is another very vulnerable group. Of course, anybody who has any underlying respiratory issues. So if you've got asthma, if you've got COPD, or you're someone who's very allergenic, you might have a harder time if you get the virus. And then anybody with autoimmune disease. And this is a very, very tricky one, because autoimmune diseases anyway are quite unpredictable. So when I say autoimmune, I'm talking about things like rheumatoid arthritis, thyroiditis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, lupus, diabetes type 1. These are all conditions where the immune system starts to attack its own organs, okay? And so a lot of these individuals have to take medications to keep the immune system low, to keep it from actually responding, because if they activate the immune system, it's going to destroy those organs. So we want to calm the immune system. But in the face of COVID, this is going to be difficult, because if your immune system is suppressed, if your immune system is being made to kind of calm down, it's not going to be able to mount a response against the virus, right? It's been found that people, males, so all of you guys out there, unfortunately, you're at a greater risk for some reason. We're still trying to figure out what that is. I think there might be a hormonal link, and I think that it is that women, because we have a female hormone called estrogen, for some reason, this is protecting us more. But there just seem to be more males being afflicted with COVID-19, and then of course the elderly. Okay, so the one thing I wanted people to take away from this is that, for example, if you have a family history, a very strong family history of diabetes, of any autoimmune condition, of cardiovascular issues, if there is obesity in the family, it's a good idea to make sure that you've had a proper, comprehensive check with your doctor. And so I do a comprehensive health check, including blood tests. There are several blood tests that I check to look at what is a person's status in terms of their blood sugar levels, in terms of their heart health, in terms of any inflammation that's going on in the body. And let's try and stabilize these things. Let's try and get them under control, because the reality is, it's not a question of if you're going to contract COVID-19, it's almost a question of when, right? A lot of us might have already had this disease and we didn't even know it, because hopefully our immune systems were healthy enough and strong enough to deal with it. And maybe the symptoms were very mild, and we may not have even known that we had COVID-19. So it's really important that you do everything in your power to basically give your immunity what it needs, whatever ammunition it needs to help you to deal with this thing. Because I don't think COVID-19 is going away, despite the vaccines. Remember that the vaccines are not meant to prevent you from getting COVID-19. That's not what the vaccines are meant to do. The vaccines are meant to do two things. The first is that if you were to get the vaccine and your system has already now battled or dealt with something that looks like COVID-19, when you get the infection, the immune system is going to say, oh, yeah, we've dealt with this guy before, we know what to do, and it's going to be able to tackle it before symptoms get really bad. So it decreases the severity of the symptoms and it prevents hospitalizations and deaths. But I know a number of people who are vaccinated who still got COVID-19. I don't know about you guys, if you know people. So please understand that even though you're vaccinated, it doesn't mean that you are safe from getting the virus. So it's more important to ensure that your internal terrain is going to be able to deal with this thing. What I tell people all the time is you have to think of your body like a garden, right? You're going to have this beautiful garden, hopefully, with all kinds of different plants and flowers and maybe even fruits and vegetables growing, but you're also going to have lots of weeds. And so we want to pull the weeds out, but we want to make sure we pull the weeds. When I say weeds, I'm talking about viruses, pathogens, whatever the bad guy is. We want to pull them from the root, so that we can allow the flowers and the garden to continue to be beautiful. But that garden needs support. It needs nutrients. It needs sunshine. It needs water. It needs nutrients coming from, whether it's fertilizers or compost or what have you. You have to tend to the garden. You have to look after it, and you have to do the same thing with your body. So let's get into some powerful naturopathic strategies. Again, for the purpose of this group and this session, just because we have people of all ages and we have people with all kinds of knowledge, I just wanted to keep it somewhat simple, not too simple, but enough that there are just basics here that we can all grasp and we can start using right away. So as I said, there are many, many wonderful botanicals, medicines coming from plants, in supplement form, in high doses, in intravenous applications that I use for my patients. I'm not going to talk about those. I'm talking about how we can firstly prevent prevent if possible. And secondly, if we get the virus, how we can ensure that our immune system is equipped to deal with it and resolve it effectively. So I'm going to talk about agents which have shown evidence for offering benefits to modulate our defenses. Okay, when I say cellular defenses, this is the immune system. So we want to boost the immune system we were born with and the immune system we've acquired through life. We want to help with inhibiting and, if possible, inactivating. You can actually stop the COVID virus from multiplying. And we want to be able to promote resolution and recovery and ideally reduce some of the long haul effects. So we are hearing about long haulers. These are people who are getting the virus and then they've resolved it, they've recovered, they're at home, but they're dealing with all kinds of long haul effects, you know, things to do with mental health, with cognition, with brain function. They're constantly exhausted, you know, they're having aches and pains. These are some of the long haul effects from the body fighting the virus. So these agents have been studied for years. This is not something that's coming just from me. These have been around for decades and have been studied for decades. So if you want to research them yourself, you can. They may not reduce the severity or the chance of you getting the virus entirely, but they're going to definitely help your immune system to work optimally to withstand the effects of the virus. And so the idea is that by using plant-based medicines and optimal nutrition, we can strengthen the weak points leveraged by the virus. We can disrupt the virus from multiplying and continuing to infect other cells and potentially spreading to other people. And we can improve our immune system and our lung health. So let's talk about food as medicine, because we have access to this, all of us, all the time. And we've just finished coming out of fasting, which is another very wonderful way of improving immunity. I spoke a lot about it last time. So for any of you who missed that talk, you know, please do go to the YouTube channel and have a listen, because you've done a really great thing for your system and for your immunity with the fasting month. As I said before, sugar feeds viruses, okay? We spoke a lot about sugar last time as well, and I'm talking about white sugar, refined sugar, but I'm also talking about carbohydrates that are your processed carbohydrates. What would those be? Cookies, pastries, samosas, bread, you know, pies, chips, all these wonderful things that we eat all the time that come from carbohydrates. There are another set of carbohydrates that are healthier for us that are called complex carbs. And these come in the form of whole grains, you know, brown rice instead of white rice, things like that, okay? And of course, fruits and vegetables. These are the best sources of complex carbohydrates. So a study published several decades ago showed that a 100-gram dose of sugar decreased the capacity for neutrophils. Neutrophils are a type of white blood cell that is activated when the immune system is trying to fight something. And it basically decreased the ability for these white blood cells by 50% within 1 to 2 hours. So as soon as you drink a can of Coke or a soft drink, or you're drinking a juice that's not really coming from a fruit, or you're having a bunch of, you know, all of these foods I mentioned before, pizzas and burgers and what have you, there are sugars and refined carbs and many other hidden unhealthy things in these foods. Within the first 2 hours of consuming these things, our immune system is depleted 50%. This is huge, okay? Sugar is inflammatory. It also causes the blood to be acidic. Whenever the blood is acidic, it is the best environment for any disease to take hold, including cancer. So it's so important in this time that we minimize comfort foods and processed foods and emphasize nutrient-dense foods. This is whole foods, vegetables, fruits, grains, legumes, grass-fed beef, organic. Everything should be, as much as possible, not sprayed with chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, and poultry should be also free range, eating whatever is their normal diet, not what's being force-fed to them. So use this time to learn how to cook and to learn how to cook healthy meals. All right. I don't have the time to get into all of this today. I'm sure we will do sessions in the future where we can talk about what are some healthier alternatives to certain types of foods. And we want to focus on whole foods, as I said, organic. Organic basically means it was left to grow without being interfered with artificial things like pesticides, herbicides, and chemical fertilizers. All colors of the rainbow. So we want to eat fruits and vegetables and all kinds of produce that range from the orange and green and bright red and dark purple and yellow and all these different colors of the rainbow, because all these colors are doing certain things for our immune system. 8 to 10 servings of vegetables and fruits. I know this may seem really high, but you have to try to aim for it. So you can have, a couple of bowlfuls of salad, or your, fruit salad, or, I have a green smoothie every morning. Just try to make sure that you're eating as much as you can these fruits and vegetables. And the other thing I wanted to also mention here is that, when it comes to our immune system, this is where we're getting all of the building blocks to build the cells of the immune system, is from the way we're eating. So that piece of bread that you're eating is eventually going to be converted into something that is going to help the immune system, or it's going to make the immune system weak. So you have to remember this. Every time you're eating something, are you feeding yourself, or are you feeding the potential for disease? Right? Really important. High quality protein. So protein, I'm sure everybody knows here, is usually animal products, fish, eggs, meats, things like that. But you have also plant proteins like lentils and so on, and fiber. Okay, so we want to focus on this as much. I am not saying at all that you can't indulge and you can't enjoy a piece of pizza or a slice of cheesecake or ice cream or whatever. I'm not saying that. I am saying that most of the time you need to focus on eating healthy to feed yourself and your body and your mind. Okay. And so I have what's called an 80-20 rule. I tell my patients and everyone and anyone who will listen to me that you should eat clean and healthy 80% of the time, so that the other 20%, you can have fun and you can go to a party or a gathering or an Eid, dinner or a wedding, and you can enjoy whatever's there, and it's fine, because that's not how you would be eating all the time. So the body is already primed to do what it needs to do, because 80% of the time you're giving it what it needs to protect you and to keep you as healthy as possible. So I'm just going to ask a question. Think about this, and maybe at the end of the session, we can talk about it. What is the difference between eating a banana and eating a banana muffin that you bought at a store? Okay, what is the difference in terms of the nutrient, capacity when you eat a whole banana, as opposed to when you eat a banana muffin? And the banana muffin is still using banana, I would imagine. But what's the difference? Let's talk about that at the end of the talk. So we want to eliminate fast foods and processed foods as much as possible. And one of the most important things when we talk about food as medicine with respect to immune system, hydration. So everyone needs to think, how much water are you drinking in a day? Okay, how much water? And ideally you want to drink the equivalent of half of your weight, if you're weighing yourself in pounds, half of your weight in ounces. But that is usually, for most of us, somewhere between 8 to 10 glasses of filtered water. I always put a lemon or a lime in my water, and that also helps to get rid of acidity in the blood. So you can have vegetable or bone broths or soups, herbal teas, hot drinks are best. You may have all remembered at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the important advices that were being given out was to drink things that were warm and hot. Why? So that we could coat the throat And so that we could ensure that, you know, if we are going to get the virus in our upper respiratory system, when we drink hot drinks, that virus is not able to do its job as well. Okay, so adding things like raw honey, adding, you know, a very good sort of blend of different herbs or herbal tea bags, which I'll talk about a bit more. These are all wonderful ways of doing things every day to build your immune system and keep it strong. What I want to discourage people is to wait until they get the virus. And it's not just the virus, it's anything. Let's wait until we get diabetes. Let's wait until we are diagnosed with, you know, whatever condition it may be. Why wait? You have the capacity and you have the access right now to be able to do things to keep your body healthy. So this is about preventive approaches. And if you keep your body healthy, even if you were to get sick, your body will be able to deal with it because it has what it needs. So don't wait. You know, I think we live in a society, unfortunately, that is very reactive. We react once the problem has arrived. Oh my goodness, now my mother has cancer. Now what do we do? Oh my goodness, my father is having a heart attack and is now having to have a triple bypass heart surgery. Now what do I do? Why? Why are we doing that? We should be proactive. We have the information at our fingertips now more so than ever. All you have to do is get on a Zoom call with your health professional or somebody who knows what you need to know and help you. You don't even have to physically go to them anymore. That's not an excuse. And you have access to, you know, educating yourself on what is good for you. So let's be proactive. I think this is one of also the very, very important tenets of Islam, about really making sure that we treat our bodies with that sacred care, right? So let's talk about some of these foods that I think are going to be critical when we are trying to build our immune system. I've just got some slides here that I wanted to show you these pictures. On the left, we have vitamin A. So we want to be eating foods that are rich in vitamin A. You'll see that a lot of it are the bright orange and yellow and almost reddish colored fruits and vegetables, carrots, you know, pumpkins, the capsicum, bell peppers, and so on. But you also get vitamin A in dairy products. And interestingly, in animal meats, especially things like liver, you'll get lots of vitamin A from that, and eggs. Okay, so vitamin A, very important for building our immunity. If we go to the bottom left, vitamin D, another really, really critical vitamin that is super important. And when I talk about it as an actual supplement, I will tell you a little bit more about why it's important. But one of the best ways to get vitamin D is what? The sunshine, right? Spending time in the sun, sensible sun exposure, 15 minutes a day, hands and face. That's all you need without using a sunblock to get vitamin D. Now, let me just say, please don't go and say, oh my goodness, Dr. Faryal said we should just spend time in the sun without sunblock. That's not what I said. I'm saying you have to have sensible sun exposure, 10 to 15 minutes without sunblock, but not when the sun is at its highest. So not at 12 noon or 1 p.m. You want to go out early morning, you know, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., or later in the afternoon. That's one of the best ways. The rest of the time, if you know you're going to be out in the sun for more than 15, 20 minutes, yes, make sure you protect yourself, okay, with your sunblock. Vitamin D is also abundantly available in salmon, in mushrooms, in dairy products, also in eggs. Now, it has to be converted into a usable form in the body. So you have to have good liver and kidney health in order to take the rays of the sun through the skin and convert it into something that's usable for the body. Let's go to the right. You'll see omega-3. A lot of you must know what omega-3s are. These are crucial. This is not something our body can make. We have to get it from outside sources, and we have to eat it every day because this is the precursor to building many, many hormones, brain chemicals. It's important for lubrication of our joints. It's important for our heart health. It's important for any inflammatory condition. And so you'll find a lot of this in fatty fish, you know, salmon, herring, mackerel, sardines. You'll also find it in certain seeds, nuts and seeds, and avocados, which are a great source. So I'm talking about food here, but I will be talking about these in supplement form where you have to take them in higher doses, because sometimes we cannot get these foods readily if they're not in season, or you know, you have to eat a lot of this stuff to get the dosages that you need. And then vitamin C, everybody knows, is mostly citrus. So your oranges, tangerines, pineapple, you know, tomatoes, all these vegetables and fruits you see here, blueberries, peppers, all the greens, kiwi fruit, lemon, all have vitamin C in them. So those are 4 of the main ones that people should really be paying attention to in terms of giving themselves what they need. And you can have these and plan it out in terms of your meals. You can make smoothies, you can make salads, you can do all kinds of things. So please remember, like I said, try to make sure it's organic if you can. And then in the middle, we have zinc. Okay, now zinc is my absolute favorite. I prescribe zinc a lot for different things. But in this situation, if you're not taking zinc, guys, if any of you are not taking this, you need to take it. It's really important. You can find it in legumes. You can find it in seeds. Pumpkin seeds are usually the highest. Pumpkin seeds, flax seeds are usually the highest in zinc. You can also find it in some shellfish like oysters. Sweet potatoes will have zinc, but they also have vitamin A. They also have vitamin C. And then, of course, my favorite, dark chocolate, which is awesome because I love dark chocolate and I eat dark chocolate every single day. So for all of you guys out there who are chocolate lovers like me, this is great news because it contains zinc, and dark chocolate is actually very healthy for us because it has what are called antioxidants. So these are nutrients that prevent damage to our cells. And they also help us to feel happy, and mental health is so important. So anything that makes you feel happy, you should be doing. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting go and have a whole slab of dark chocolate in a day, no. Just a couple blocks, 2-3 blocks, you know, a day is great. And the cocoa content has to be high. It's gonna be above 60%, ideally above 70%. So you've got to read the back of the labels, but for some of us, this can be a bit bitter. However, this is where the benefits are coming from, is from the bitterness. Okay, so these are foods that are really important for us to focus on when it comes to building our immune systems. There are many others, but I wanted to focus on these. And now I want to talk about these in the sense of actual natural agents. So we can take a lot of these nutrients as supplements in high doses. I think there are people in the waiting room, Farhan, if you want to let them in. And then we can now just talk about these if you need to take them as a supplement. I'm not going to be discussing dosing. I'm not going to talk about dosages, okay? Because what you need is something that your body is going to be different from what someone else needs based on what other situation or conditions or health concerns you have. And so there are some general dosing, but I'm not going to be giving advice on dosages. You have to speak to your health professional or naturopathic doctor or what have you if you want to understand what's the best dose for you. Vitamin C, as I mentioned before, something everybody should be taking, I think, as a supplement for sure. And the reason for this is because anytime the immune system is dealing with a challenge, an infection, inflammation, anything, you know, toxins in the air, what have you, then the need for vitamin C increases tenfold because your white blood cells need vitamin C in order for them to do what's called their killing action. Okay, so when you take vitamin C, you have to take it in divided doses. You cannot take it all at once. You'll just end up urinating most of it because the body uses only what it needs in that time. And right now, it's one of, I think, the more critical nutrients that people should be taking, good quality vitamin C, to be able to give their white blood cells what it needs. Because like I said before, you can be bombarded with a virus or a bacteria or a pathogen or whatever, and your immune system is already working on it. When you get sick, that's not when the immune system starts working. When you're feeling sick, your body is basically at the point now where the immune system is overwhelmed. But up until that point, the immune system has been working really hard. Vitamin D, as I said, you can get it from the sunshine. It reduces inflammation. And in particular, earlier I spoke about something called the cytokine storm, which was where the immune system just mounts this overwhelming, crazy reaction. And unfortunately, that becomes the problem that people who get COVID-19 suffer from. They're not really suffering anymore from the virus. They're suffering from their own immune system, not knowing how to create an appropriate response. And it's like, basically, it's almost like hitting, like a nail with a huge hammer, right? It's just too much force. So vitamin D calms that cytokine storm. And what's been found with a lot of the research taking place now with people who've been hospitalized and who've succumbed to COVID-19, these individuals were all vitamin D deficient. All of them had very, very, very low levels of vitamin D. So another piece of advice, when you're getting your health check and you're getting blood tests done, please ask your doctor to check your vitamin D levels, because you should know what your vitamin D levels are. And if they are very low, you need to supplement. Getting it from food is not going to be enough. It takes a long time to build vitamin D levels. Okay, so again, information is power. If you know that you are low in something or high in something, then you can do something about it. Omega-3, again, you can take this as a supplement because we need quite a bit of it, but it's also anti-inflammatory. It also calms the immune overreaction. Probiotics are another one that I usually encourage people to take. These are the healthy bacteria that reside in our systems, in particular in our digestive system, in our intestines. And these bacteria are good guys. They're healthy bacteria that live inside of us, that protect us from the bad guys because they fight the bad guys, but they also help us to break down food and get the nutrients we need. So if you have any digestive health problem, if you're having cramps, if you are having pain, if you are bloated all the time, if you have constipation, if you've got any kind of irritable bowel, any problems with colon health, please get yourself on track with it, because this is where your body, 70% of our immune system is these gut bacteria. I'll say it again, 70% of our immune system resides in our gut. It's actually considered the second brain. That's how important it is. And then zinc is the other supplement, which we can take as a supplement. Very powerful for any kind of upper respiratory infection, any type of tonsillitis. You can take a zinc lozenge. It lowers the risk of infection. And what's beautiful about zinc is it actually stops the virus from multiplying. So you get infected by the COVID-19 or any other virus, the virus enters the cell and now it wants to multiply. And when you're taking zinc, zinc basically shuts down the virus's ability to multiply. So this is really powerful. Now let's talk a little bit about some of my champions when it comes to other plant-based medicines and things that I think are really wonderful. I wanted to just highlight some of these. There are many, many beautiful medicines that come from nature, but some of these I want to talk about because they are things we have in our kitchens right now. Number one is turmeric. So turmeric, we're all using for our cooking. We have for many, many, many thousands of years. It is an Ayurvedic medicine that's been used as a medicine and also for culinary purposes. It's very, very powerful, anti-inflammatory. It boosts the immune system. Ginger is another one that does the same. Other herbs and spices, things like cinnamon are also very powerful. Cardamom, also powerful. So on the bottom right, you'll see a picture of something called a golden milk. This is milk made out of haldi, right? We used to always say, you know, haldi waro doodh PJ, right? We should all drink this when we're in pain, when there's inflammation, when there's anything going on. Well, this is not a myth. There are many powerful benefits to drinking this. So I've given a little recipe here at the top right of how to make the golden milk with the ground turmeric and cinnamon powder, cardamom powder, ground ginger. You have to add a little bit of black pepper because pepper actually increases the absorption of the turmeric into our cells. You can add some coconut oil, obviously your choice of milk. So I don't drink dairy. If I can help it, it's usually coconut milk or almond milk. And then once it's simmered, you've simmered it. So we're not bringing it to a boil. We're just simmering it so that everything can mix nicely. You can strain it, wait a little bit, and then add raw honey. Honey must be raw. And there are wonderful benefits of honey. Honey also contains a lot of the healthy bacteria that I spoke about before. And we should drink it while it's still warm. So this is one of the things that is very good for our immune systems. Being that we are all from an East African community, I couldn't help but talk about tangawizi chai. We've all, I think, at some point in our lives made this, or our mother has made it for us. I continue to make it to this day, my own version. And so tangawizi chai is another fantastic blend of these beautiful herbs and spices that are going to bolster our immune defenses. And then lastly, we have green tea. So green tea has a specific ingredient in it called EGCG, which is very powerful against cancer. But though that same ingredient actually is powerful against viruses and helps us to build and improve our immunity. So these are some things that I think a lot of us can start doing today. You know, make sure you're drinking 2 cups of green tea a day, or make sure you're having this golden milk, or having tangawizi chai, or just, you know, cut up some slivers of ginger into a boiling water, add a little bit of cinnamon sticks, cardamom, whatever, make a tea out of it, add some honey, and you should drink that. So finally, I just want to touch on some lifestyle factors that I think are really important when it comes to our health. And these are some of the best doctors right here. Sleep, while reducing stress, sunshine in nature, and movement. Okay, so we got to pay attention to these. Sleep is really important because there's a lot going on during sleep that's important for our immune system, not just the quality of the sleep, but also how many hours we're sleeping. Anyone who's sleeping 6 hours or less, unfortunately, is actually not allowing their body to fully repair and heal. But there are people who can get away with it. During Ramadan, I think a lot of us probably had very poor sleep hygiene. So we've got to get back on track with that, myself included. And, you know, with sleep, what's very interesting is that research is showing that for those of you who chose to get the vaccine is only going to be effective if your immune system mounts a response and creates what are called antibodies. In order for the immune system to do that, it has to be in a good condition. So the recommendation is make sure you've slept well 2 nights leading up to the day you're getting your vaccine, so that when the vaccine is injected, the immune system is ready to produce those antibodies and give a robust response. If you haven't slept well, that vaccine, unfortunately, quite frankly, is not going to be as effective. When it comes to stress, we've all had a very stressful 12 to 18 months for various reasons, financial, you know, health-wise, family members who may have been sick, and so on. And also now just the world is undergoing so much stress with respect to all these world events going around the world. So we got to try our best to reduce stress in our lives. If it means turning the TV off and not watching the news for 2 or 3 days, because believe it or not, the news, and if it's all negative, it does impact our mental health. It impacts our ability to sleep well. And then we release a stress hormone called cortisol. And if you have too much cortisol in your system, it blunts your immune system, so your immune system cannot respond. So we really have to do the self-care and spend some time, you know, take time out, carve out some time for yourself, 10, 15 minutes a day, to do something that makes you happy, whether it's listening to music, whether it's reading a book, whether it's praying, meditating, whether it's spending time in the garden. When I ask people, you know, what do you do just for yourself for 15 minutes? A lot of people say to me, oh, I play with my kids. So that's not what I mean. Your kids are important, and yes, you should play with them, but you need to give yourself, just you, spend some time with yourself and find something that brings you joy and gives you a sense of calm at the same time. It could be whatever it is, okay? And spending time in sunshine. Sun is a powerful immune booster right away. When it's sunny, we all feel happier also. Spending time in nature as much as you can. Now in Canada, it is summertime, so I hope that wherever possible, you guys can all spend some time outdoors, especially where there's greenery. Go have a walk in a forest, you know, spend time in nature. Go spend time on a lake or near the ocean or near the mountains, whatever you can, because the earth already has this shock absorber built into it to help us buffer against stress. And we know that COVID-19 doesn't spread the infection as well when we are outdoors. So fresh air, very powerful for our immune function. And then lastly, movement. We need to move. Our bodies are made to move. You don't have to join the gym and work out for 2 hours. That's not what I mean. You just need to move, whether it's walking 15 minutes around the block, whether it's doing housework, whether it's doing some kind of you know, mat exercise or exercise in front of a YouTube online class, whatever it may be that brings you joy, swimming, but you gotta move. You have to move the body because this is how we also move the blood, we move the lymph, and we boost our immunity. And it's also important for our mental health. So these are some of the things that I think are really important things for all of us to start really doing well and creating, you know, the self-care and the routine around these things for ourselves and our loved ones, so that we can stay healthy. And if we do contract the virus, fine. Our system, we can be confident that our systems have what they need to be able to tackle this thing and to overcome it. And then we can just, and then we move on. Okay, so a lot of this is lifestyle. And I really hope that it's been interesting and helpful. And I'm more than happy now to take any questions. I'll just stop sharing the screen.
Wow, that was a lot of information, Faryal. Thank you so much.
I hope it wasn't too overwhelming.
No, especially from the technical side, when you started in terms of, I guess you had to get technical when you were talking about how the system, the body and the virus works. So, and then you moved on to lifestyle, you moved on to quite a few things. There are some questions, but you had posed a question for everyone with regard to the banana and the muffin. So let's address this. So we've got people answering that the banana muffin contains processed ingredients and flour. Same thing suggested by Shazim is that, the banana has natural sugars, whereas the muffin has processed sugar, wheat, which turns into sugar. Over to you now. What's your take on that?
So absolutely correct. Everybody's 100%, whoever answered, I'm sure people were thinking about it as well. The point I was trying to make is we need to eat as close to nature as possible. And again, let me remind all of us here that we are so fortunate that coming from, the Islamic background, the Prophet, peace be upon him, practiced medicine along the same lines. And you were gracious enough to send me this beautiful book about the Prophet's medicine. And so it's interesting, because it's not new. This is not new stuff. This is stuff that's been around forever. And we've moved away from it for convenience. We've moved away from it because it's easier, it's cheaper. And all of these things have just created a very bad effect on our health. In fact, we are the sickest we've ever been in the history of humanity. Ever. We are the sickest right now, physically and mentally. So I think we just need to return back to some of these basics and some of this wisdom about why. So the banana is natural. There's nothing before the banana. The banana came off the tree and you eat it exactly the way it is, straight from the tree, right? You don't have to make it into something. You don't have to. Whereas the muffin, as all of you said, we don't even know if it might not even have banana in it. It might just have banana flavoring, some kind of synthetic flavoring. There's going to be white sugar, processed sugars, wheat, gluten, other kinds of additives and preservatives. And then it's got to sit on that shelf for a while until somebody buys it. So it's not necessarily that you've just baked a banana muffin and eating it. It could be sitting there for 2-3 days, right? So those things are going to create more issues for our health than if we just ate the banana itself. So I'm talking about eating as close to nature. When you're eating something, you have to think, how many factories did it take before this stuff ended up on my plate? Wallah, really have to think about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I see Shazim has got his hand up. So Shazim, if you want to ask your question, unmute. Yep, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Faryal. How are you
Alaikum
doing?
salam. So nice to see you.
I know, a long time no see.
Long time.
Thank you very much for all that useful information. Honestly, you make us all very proud.
Oh, that's so thoughtful and sweet. Thank you.
So let me say Eid Mubarak to everyone over here. Good to see all the Californians over here, hoping you're all doing well. And all the local people here, we haven't met each other for a while, but hoping everybody's doing well. Faryal, let me take you back to the vaccine. I understand that there isn't enough research done on the vaccine itself, but is there any research done on the ingredients that have gone into it for as far as long-term effects are concerned, like the mRNA or whatever they call it? Is there any research on the individual ingredients?
That's a really good and a very loaded question. Shazim, I almost wonder if we might have to do a separate talk on this. I did an Instagram live session just on the vaccines because there's so much confusion and so much uncertainty. And there are many, many people that don't have the confidence or don't feel reassured about what the vaccines are meant to do. So I'm going to be very honest, and I don't want to offend anybody here. The reality is that when it comes to making a vaccine, generally, with all of the hoops that these medical establishments have to go through, it can take 10 years, sometimes 15 years to develop a vaccine. This has been a phenomenal, unprecedented situation where we have been able to develop a few vaccines from different companies within months. It's never been done before, okay? So that's number one. The second thing is that Pfizer, Moderna, and other companies like them are using a new technology. They're using what you mentioned, which is an mRNA technology. This is a technology that has never, ever been used on humans before. It's been used on animals, but not on humans. So although they've gone through what are called their phase 1, phase 2 trials to ensure that there aren't any side effects, the truth is we don't know what the long-term side effects are because we just haven't had enough time to understand what could be, if any, potential long-term side effects. So it is a little bit confusing in the sense that we've got, companies using new technologies, we have companies using old technologies. Some companies only need, one vaccine like the Johnson & Johnson. Others need more than one. Then we hear these stories about blood clots and, other side effects that have been a bit scary for some people. So this is why I'm saying, the second thing I didn't mention, which I should have, is when we are talking about the vaccine, at this point, I unfortunately feel that, governments and powers that be are the ones determining what we need to do. Whatever your personal view is on this, unfortunately, there's very little you're going to be able to do. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know in Canada right now, if you don't want to get the vaccine, can you produce a letter from your doctor based on philosophical or religious reasons that say, I don't want to get the vaccine? Okay, because I know you can do it for kids, for other vaccines, for your kids, when they need vaccines to be done at school. But for COVID, I'm not sure. In Saudi Arabia, there's no such thing. I'll give you a second to answer, Shazim, but I just want to say, in Saudi, it's being mandated everywhere, which is a thorn in my side because I don't feel that people should be forced to take a vaccine. But now they're saying, if you want to continue to work at your workplace, a lot of employers are going to be demanding people take the vaccine. So it's a very tricky thing, but your question about ingredients, yes, there is research on ingredients. You have to look for it. It's not just going to be out there for people. You've got to research it. So I don't know if I answered your question, but you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think there is an option of not taking it, but however, with let's say you don't take it, there's going to be so many things you can't do that you're
Correct.
just forced to take it, like travel and things.
That's
like
what
that.
I mean.
I mean, you may have the option for religious reasons or for any other reason, but I mean, if you don't take it, there'll be a lot you can't do.
100%. And that's what I mean. Like, there's not much we can do, unfortunately, to fight against it. I don't think it's not that people don't want the vaccine. I think there are a lot of people that just want to wait. They just want to wait a little bit longer to see, well, let's find out if we can get some more long-term information. And the other problem is the variants. So, if the virus continues to mutate, because that is what viruses do, and every time there's a new variant, then does that mean we're going to now have to take a new vaccine for a new variant, right? So the idea is they're trying to prevent this virus from mutating too much by getting as many people vaccinated and getting the herd immunity. So along with sleep, the other thing that really is powerful for ensuring that the vaccine works well is exercise. So if you know that you're scheduled to go get the vaccine, along with everything else that I've spoken about today, make sure that you have exercised for at least 60 minutes, 24 hours prior to getting the vaccine. Because what that does is it puts the immune system on alert, so that as soon as you're vaccinated, that immune system is primed to do its job and create these antibodies. When you're vaccinated against COVID, it's just like the flu vaccine. It doesn't give you protection forever. It only covers you for a certain amount of time.
Right. I know for last week or the week before, the Ontario government stopped administering the COVID, the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Right. Yeah, South Africa was the first country to stop months ago. And there have been a few other countries, I think Germany and others had stopped and then they brought it back. So it's a tricky time, but I think for a lot of us who need to travel, we're not going to have an option but to get vaccinated. But I really feel that in the interim, do these things that we've been talking about today to help your immune system and to help you, so that actually the people who are having side effects from the vaccines are the unhealthy people. So if you're generally healthy, you should not have a side effect from vaccine. And the other thing I want to mention is that in the Western countries, when you're getting the vaccine, most of the doctors are telling the patients to please take Tylenol or Panadol or some kind of analgesic or anti-inflammatory to help with the side effects. In the Asian countries like China, they're telling the patients to take turmeric to do the same thing.
Right.
So I'm just giving you some tips on how to work around it, because I think, unfortunately, we all gonna have to get that jab.
Right. Thank you so much. That was very useful information. Just before I go, Elena would like to say.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Eid Mubarak to everybody with her blue.
Thank you.
Eid Mubarak.
I had a question as soon as you're done.
Yeah, so just before we go to the next question, let me just add on to what Shazim has asked and what you have said. Is we also need to validate the information that's coming in from social media. There's a lot of misinformation that we need to look at. We need to validate. And it's difficult because, you're getting this information coming in from all over the world onto your WhatsApp chats with so much misinformation or scary stuff from both, sides of the camps. You've got those guys pro and those guys against as well. So we need to make sure we're validating this because, fake news is a huge concern, especially to me. Um,
I
again,
agree with that. And I think that's a great point. And I just want to say it that I am absolutely not an anti-vaxxer. I'm also not a pro-vaxxer. I look at every vaccine individually and then decide, is it something where the benefit outweighs the risk? So if I'm traveling to a country and there's going to be dengue fever or hepatitis C or something, I don't want to mess with those nasty diseases. I'll take the shot, right? But I haven't had a flu shot in over 20 years. Because I believe that our body has the ability to deal with this stuff, and we can equip our immune systems, as I keep saying today. With the COVID-19, I'm sitting on the fence only because I feel that it would have been nice to have more longer term effect. But I'm not saying that the vaccine is not important, or it's not valid, or it's going to save lives. Absolutely, it's a very personal decision.
Great, thanks. So there's another question here with regards to what are your thoughts on shelled hemp seeds as opposed to chia seeds, or compared the two?
Yeah, look, I think hemp seeds in general are very high in omega-3s and in protein and things like that. So certainly they're great for heart health. So I would, give it a thumbs up for sure.
Excellent, thanks. There's another question here. What's your thought about exercising if somebody does a brisk walk for 30 to 60 minutes every day? Is that good?
Yes, that's fantastic. In fact, walking is probably the single most powerful exercise you can do, because not only is it great for your limbs and moving and just that briskness, but it's also really great for digestion. It's also really great, believe it or not, for your mental health. Because for a lot of people, when they're walking where they're watching trees or they're outside, and that is really powerful for buffering against stress and helping people to just navigate their thoughts. I know that if I'm troubled or feeling anxious about something, as soon as I've had a walk, I feel so much better.
I would agree with you. I've done that too as well. Do that as well on a daily basis when the weather is good, obviously. So somebody had a question, and again, if you have a question, raise your hand so we can see you. Nazir Ba, go ahead.
मूंखे सवाल कईं हुओ कि इन बीमारी जी ख़ास दवा मिली है हेवर जो त इम्यून सिस्टम के बूस्ट करे जी दवा है ने इन बीमारी जी ख़ास दवा मिली है ख़ास कमा कोई भी से मूंखे पुछा कईं हुओ ने बियो पुछा कईं हुओ कि टंगाबीसी त वापियूं त हेवर जो टंगाबीसी चालू है या पींदोस पर मूंखे पुछणो हो टंगाबीसी जॾहिं करियूं त इन जो जेकी मिले तो करो इन जी जेको बैटरी जरा डाउन थिन जो वातारी होते से पावर एंड करा तो आओ करो टंगाबीसी जेकी स्टीम अचे थी ने उस स्टीम खनु साडी गाले बोला कि आऊं टंगाबीसी ऑन करा ने तडे स्टीम थोड़ी खनी खना वटो कोई चाय जी स्टीम से पूछा कहीं.
Good questions. I'm sorry, my Kachi is terrible. I won't be able to respond in Kachi. Maybe Farhan can translate. But yeah, look, for me, the Tangawizi, I had to mention it because this is the community, right? I mean, is there anyone here who doesn't know what is Tangawizi? I hope everybody knows what Tangawizi chai is. And if you haven't had it in a while, please get back to it because, hey? Is that Shazad saying something? Okay. So what I'm trying to say is the main ingredients in it are powerful. So I should say, if you're taking it as something that is already processed, be careful because I don't know what they've put inside those powders or tea bags that are pre-made. When I make Tangawizi, when we make it in our home, we make it from scratch. It's the pure, herbs and spices that we're using. Yes, the steam is fine. You can absolutely inhale the steam. If it helps you to open up your passages, that's great. And as of today, no, there is not a single medicine that is effective against COVID. There have been many that they have been looking at, from ivermectin to hydroxychloroquine to all kinds of other things. If there's any medical people in this group, they can also please educate us. But these things are all working in different ways. There's not one single thing that I'm aware of that's actually treating people and fixing them. I think it's a combination of stuff that's having to be done.
हाँ कच्ची में translate करें तो सीचे टंगा वैसी वो फायदा
समझी पियो
simple
पण करो आऊं कच्ची एतरे लाइ बोला तो के कच्ची जो प्रोग्राम आहे तेन लाइ
ना भले
No problem.
भले
बोला
पांच
के लैंग्वेज पा अगर न संभालिया सु त केर संभालींदो
सच्ची
सवारे
ॻाल्हि आहे
That's
छोकरा
right.
को कच्ची बुझदा हैं मुंहिंजो छोकरो ॾा जन्मियो मूं वटि अची ने अमेरिकन बोर्न आहे अची ने कच्ची इंग्लिश में ॻाल्हि कईंदो आऊं चवंदुसि आऊं इंग्लिश नथो ॿुधां ॿिए कोई पुछे जी मम्मी के करो डैडी इंग्लिश नथा ॿुधे
हाँ नसीब एब्सोल्युटली सच्ची ॻाल्हि आहे पा कच्ची प्रमोट कयो था ई जमात में पाणे ई जरा प्रेजेंटेशन कच्ची में जरा वो टेक्निकल थी वेंदो पोइ
वांदो न आहे ऑलराइट I am proud of you जेको तू कोशिश कए पकाडा सुधी पुॼी आवे के ॿिया हथियार फुगाए ॾिनो तू स्ट्रॉन्ग रहे I am proud of
लोहारिया ने हथियार पंहिंजा वो स्ट्रॉन्ग है
इंशाल्लाह मैं अल्लाह मुझे
थैंक यू
ने हिकिड़ो सवाल मुंहिंजो जेकी वो दवा आहे और जो कोई नकरी आहे जेको उन बीमारी के खास कंडेम करे
नहीं जी नहीं
हिकिड़ी ने ॿियो टंगाबीसी जेकी आऊं बनाया तो उनमें टंगाबीसी अदरक विझा तो पोइ तज विझा तो लविंग विझा तो ने खन विझा तो ने पोइ बनाया
Kan na which no anke could how do we say honey guys mud. Yes, you need to use honey.
Tamuwa chai ni sukari
ane badlai no khapdo ane badlai no khapdo
ये अगर वो खबर है खासी चीज है
ये ginger करो है लिखे ginger
crystals yeah KCA for the throat it's good yeah definitely if it's just that it's good
ने स्टीम जे बारे में करो जो ख्याल है स्टीम जेकी पा खनो अगर पा टंगाबीसी रखिया सु चुले मथे ने जी स्टीम खनो चाय रखिया सु जी स्टीम खाया सु
I mean, the steam, you know, if it's tangawizi, if it's just those herbs, it's fine. If it's going to be milk and sugar and all these things, then I would say not good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Kali ganje jo steam na khai ja bas.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's legal now. It's legal now. It has many medicinal properties.
मेरी के ईद मुबारक चुको सुने
ईद मुबारक
मुझे छोकरो ग्रेजुएट थियो
माशाल्लाह मुबारक ही Okay, let's move on. There's your question that I could enjoy. I've heard that after being tested positive for COVID, we need to wait for 90 days in order to get the vaccine. What are your thoughts and suggestions on that?
Well, it's just because it's taking people 3 months or longer to completely recover. So if you get the vaccine while you have the COVID, we just don't know if your body's going to produce antibodies from the vaccine or, you know, what is happening. So I think that it is a good idea to wait and just you can get a COVID antibody test to see if you are still protected because when you get COVID, your body produces antibodies to protect you from the next time. And that's the vaccine is doing the same thing.
Excellent. Another question, does putting lots of sugar in tangawizi cancel the health benefits of that?
Yes.
I would think so too. Sahir, are you still there? You have a question? Sahir had a question. If you can unmute yourself. Okay, we have.
He's here. Sahir's here.
I just had a question. You were talking about the ingredients. The doctor was talking about the ingredients. How like let's say we find do research on the ingredients. How trusted are they? How accurate are they when it comes to what ingredients they've listed?
Yeah, like you're obviously going to need to look for the ingredients from the company's websites where the vaccines are being made. But, you know, generally speaking, they might not for the public tell you every single thing that's inside the vaccine. For example, the flu vaccines, a lot of them were using in the past, they were being cultured in eggs, in egg yolk. So for example, if you have an allergy to egg, as soon as you get the flu vaccine, you're going to mount a very big response and have a huge side effect from that. Previously, there were other things like thimerosal and other, way in the past, there were some other chemicals that were being used. It's not something that they voluntarily just give to the public. You do have to do some digging. I have to be honest, I have not done the digging simply because I know that there are going to be some questionable things. It's just the way vaccines are made. That's how they're cultured. So if you're going to the websites where the vaccines are coming from, you can look for it and ask. You're going to have to ask, like, can you send us a list of what's in the vaccine? You have a right to know.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Faryal. So, someone has raised a hand here with the number 430066. You may ask your question, and whoever has questions, you can either type them on the chat or raise your hand and you can ask the question. So 430066, go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Kya?
आके मेरी कई जी मुबारक थी
Khair mubarak.
मूंखे ही पुछणो हो सॉरी आउं इंग्लिश में पुछा थी फरियाल के फरियाल how safe is GMO?
GMO?
Yeah.
Genetically modified organism?
Yeah, they put lots, in the foods, right?
Yeah. So my opinion on that is that whatever you're eating, you should make sure that it says non-GMO. I don't think that GMO is a good idea because these are, foods that have been modified in the lab. They have done something to the genetics and they've created something else. And the idea behind GMO, let's say when it comes to something like wheat, is that if you're having genetically modified wheat, the idea is that you will end up using a seed that is going to give you a greater yield of the wheat, and it's going to create more profits. Okay. Unfortunately, along with that, there have been some other health concerns that come up when something doesn't grow in nature the way it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So I think in general, again, we don't know long-term effects of GMO foods because they're being adulterated or they're being modified inside a lab, and we just don't know. It is better if you can to make sure whatever you're eating, it says non-GMO.
Okay, thanks for that. And what I noticed is I bought a flour like, mani giotto, roti's flour, and without GMO and with GMO, I tried it and the taste was different too. With GMO was not that good, but without GMO was really good, the taste.
Interesting. Yeah. So again, it's because the non-GMO is probably the pure version, right? Whereas the GMO version, like I said, has been messed around with because it's been a promise for farmers and for companies for greater yield and greater profits. It's all about the money, right? So
right. And even the corn, you notice the corn, the fresh corn with the GMO, it tastes more sweeter than the organic ones.
And the organic ones. Yeah. And that's probably why it's been modified to be sweeter so they can sell more. But we don't know the health. What are the health implications? We don't know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I would say as well, when I go to Kenya, the food tastes a lot different there. The meat, the vegetables, the fruits taste a lot more different than what we get here. And here it's all about the money, like you said.
Same in Pakistan.
Yeah. So most of it is naturally grown then, and you can taste the difference. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Faryal.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So let me go through the questions again. So we have a question here with regard to what are your thoughts about sending kids back to school face-to-face? They've been in virtual for about a year now, virtual classes, and both are under 9 years of age. And now in Texas, they've opened up everything back to normal. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'd be happy to share my thoughts, but I'd like to engage the attendees a bit, and maybe a couple of you can talk about what you think about that. You know, I don't have kids, but I do have an opinion on it. I'll share it. But whoever asked the question, I'm sorry, I didn't see who it is.
That was Amal Osman, so I'm sure she can
Oh,
unmute.
Amal.
And
yeah, I can see Amal. Hi, Amal. Please maybe tell us what you think about it. Why are you asking that question? And if there's anyone else in the audience who wants to say something about it, because, you know, it's a good question.
Amal, we can't hear you. I don't know if you're mute. Oh, you are not on mute, but we can't hear you. Your speaker is not
working. Maybe check your volume. Is your volume up?
Hold on, let me just check here. Amal.
So I just want to add to that. I'm a teacher, and we've been in. Hi, this is Shazia, Farhan's sister. We've been in session for about 2 months with kids in school. We've not had any incidences or positive cases or any outbreaks amongst kids. They've all been wearing masks all along. And we have been monitoring social distancing, and they sanitize their hands every time they enter the classroom. So we've not had any outbreaks.
That's great news. And are you a teacher?
Yeah. Yes.
And how do you feel as a teacher to have had to return back to class?
I think it was the best thing we've done. It was safe enough for us to return, because in California, it's we've been vaccinated. We've started opening up, and it's been really good for the kids. Yeah, for their mental health, for their physical health. It has been awesome. They've been doing better at school.
Yeah. Amal, are you able to talk now? Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm asking this question because so my kids have been at home for almost a year now. They're doing virtual. They're doing good, but I prefer them going to school personally. But the thing is, I receive an email from school every week saying there is a COVID case there every week. So I'm not sure if I should be sending them back to school or not in August, because their school does have an option for that. That's why I wanted to know what your thoughts are about that. So it's either a student who has the virus and has come to school, or it's the teachers who have it, you know, one of the staff members. So it's like an every week kind of email.
Are they giving you, the parents, a choice to say you can send them to school in August, or are they saying everybody should come back in August?
So for now, I asked their teacher, and they said, so the school doesn't know what the district is going to decide on that. So what I hear is their ISD is going to make us send everyone back. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, look, my thoughts are similar to what Fauzia's sister said. No, sorry, Farhan's sister as well. And what you're saying is also valid. It's a very tricky question, challenging one, because what I've witnessed, I've had patients who are seeing me because they're stressed out, because they're overwhelmed, because all of a sudden they've had to wear so many hats. And not only are they having to work from home, and in some cases their employers are expecting more out of them, because there's this misconception that just because you're working from home, you are saving time commuting, and so you can do more. Then on top of that, they have to be the teacher for their children. They have to be the caretaker for their kids. They have to play with the kids. They have to feed the kids. They have to keep, you know, the household in order. And these patients are just completely stressed out and overwhelmed. And that's literally why and then they come see me. So what I'm realizing is also some of these kids are starting to act out. There are kids who are starting to become extremely anxious, or they are acting out. They're just, you can see there's this sort of withdrawal that they're having, or they're acting hostile, or there's more aggression. Some of them are becoming depressed. So my opinion is that it is really detrimental for the children's social and mental well-being for them to be kept away from their peers for this amount of time. I think it is very detrimental. I think that first of all, children need their peers to be able to discover and explore their world and to learn and to play. It's not the same when they're playing with adults, or if they you know, imagine kids who don't even have a sibling, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, it's also the parents need the space away from the kids. You know, it's a healthy space that the child has their time at school, the parents have their time to do what they need to do and work and what have you. And everything is becoming blurred. So this is also bad for the family health. So that's my opinion. And I think that when it's a really dangerous situation, yes, you may have to keep your child away from school. But in general, if you're following all of these things that I spoke about today, and you're doing all of the other health measures that are in place, you know, you should be okay, because the transmission between kids is not high in terms of COVID, right? Okay. So that's what I think. I mean, I don't know what if anyone else wants to, you know, share, please do, especially those of you who have kids.
Yeah, so from my particular aspect, you know, I think what you've said, Faryal, is critical, especially for the kids to go out, enjoy the outdoors, and be, you know, with their peers. My challenge, you know, especially with the kids being at home, is they're in class, and then as soon as they finish, they're still on their computers looking at, you know, videos or whatever. So they're stuck on the devices for so long, they don't get to go outdoors. And I think the biggest thing is, let's, you know, build their immunity strong so that you know that you're protecting your family as a whole from COVID, you know, in terms of fighting it, even if you do get it. So because you hear of some people saying, you know, we have COVID in our house, but alhamdulillah, it's mild case. It's because people have good immunity. And then you hear other cases where they've got COVID in their family and they've had to go to hospital. And again, has a lot to do with the immunity system. So I think, you know, the takeaway from this discussion is, let's all build our immunity to the strongest possible, so that at least you're doing your part to be not get infected, but to be able to fight the virus much better than you know, being ill. So that's my talk. And I agree with Amal. It is stressful when you get these emails or calls from the school telling you, and it's very much like her. Every week we'd get a minimum 1 call, 2 calls sometimes in a week, saying that the school is in, you know, advised by the Ministry of Health that somebody has COVID, and then that classroom has been informed of what to do next. So these calls come in generally, and it does get a bit overwhelming. But at the end of the day, you know, my kids prefer being in school. So they're like, you know, we'll just go. And you take the precautions that you need to do. So
I'm going to jump in here. Amal, the questions you need to ask your school is, are you sanitizing the classroom every day? Are they sanitizing the bathrooms every day? The school where I am, they're sanitizing the bathrooms after every kid goes in. They go in and spray it, and they smoke the whole place. The other question you need to ask is, are they providing masks for kids? Because kids do break their masks when they're at school. You also need to train your kids to keep the masks on and to maintain social distancing. And the best way to tell kids to maintain that is an arm's length. I tell the kids that if they're not an arm's length away from their friends, then they're not maintaining social distancing. So you need to start training the girls and train the girls to keep their mask on all the time. And if they're eating, they need to step at least 6 feet away from other kids to eat.
Okay. Okay,
But
I'll do that.
ask the school, are they sanitizing the classrooms? Are they, how are they sanitizing? How often they sanitize the bathrooms? Do they have extra masks? Are they sanitizing their hands when they get into the classroom? And how far are the kids sitting in the classroom?
Okay.
See, we've got
Okay.
everybody here that can answer questions. Thank you very much for that, Shazia.
Thank you so much.
Just respecting everyone's time, we have 2 more minutes. There's a question here, somebody has scheduled their vaccination. So is it safe to take it or not? I think we've had that discussion. It's upon the individual. Do you want to add anything else to that, Dr. Faryal?
No, it's totally personal, and just do the things that I've talked about to make sure that you have a good response to the vaccine.
Yeah, so, Faryal said do exercise before going for the vaccination, or maybe you jog to the vaccination center, even better. The other thing, Faryal, like you said, the gut is the second brain, for the probiotic side. I think that's the challenge, because the gut sometimes says, I need more food of the unhealthy food, and the brain and all this, you have the main brain saying, don't eat that food, and then your gut brain saying, just eat it. I need it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest.
So let me actually tell you what's going on there. You're absolutely right, and I know we're being humorous here, but there is a two-way bidirectional communication between the main brain and the gut brain. And when you're getting cravings to eat things that are unhealthy, it's not actually you that's getting the cravings. It's the bad bacteria in your gut, because they're the ones that want the sugar. They're the ones that want all the junky stuff so that they can survive and continue to party and be bad and create disease. And so you need to think, when I'm wanting to eat this food, am I feeding myself, or is it the bacteria inside me? We are more bacteria than we are human cell. I hope everybody here understands that. The number of bacteria in our system and on our skin outnumbers the number of actual human cells that we're made of.
Wow, good to know. Okay, with
I have
that
a
said,
question.
yes, I was wondering when you'd speak, Shakir Abbas.
No, just waiting for everybody to finish.
Go ahead.
Faryal, thank you for all the info and the presentation, Faryal.
Thank you.
I just have a question or a request. Can I circulate within the family and friends the true presentation, what you have done? Of course, knowing that you have already put it on YouTube, but I still feel that I should ask you whether I should go ahead and share with me, because the information what you have given out is very, very informative, and I think it's a must for everybody to know for precaution.
I don't have a problem, Farhan. Do you have any issues with this being circulated to non-KCA members?
You know what? I think, from a personal perspective, if we can make a difference in one person's life to improve their health, then why not? I don't see anything that is confidential here. And once this recording is done, I will post it. And like you did, Faryal, last time, if you can give me the presentation, I'll put it in PDF and if it's shareable. Yeah.
Sure, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I take yes as answer, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Faryal, you heard me today.
Yeah, I did. Nice to see you. Eid Mubarak.
You remind me when Nabi Yusuf was being auctioned, there was an old lady who was representing there, and she just put a small amount, and people say, big shark are here to buy him. Why you? So at least I was on the list. So I'm on the list today. Thank you for that.
Good analogy, thanks. So there's another question here is, what do you think of a plant-based, sugar-free, oil-free lifestyle?
I think it's very ambitious. I think if you can do it, that's fantastic. I'm not really all about oil-free. I think that that's probably the one part where I believe people still need to consume oils, but they have to be healthy, anti-inflammatory oils, not oils that some of us using now, and that are inflammatory, that come from vegetables. And definitely, so like no canola oil, no sunflower oil, none of the vegetable oils. We spoke last time about using oils 2 and 3 times after cooking. That's no. So I believe we need oils. And this is where the omega-3 also comes. It's a type of an oil. It's a type of a fat. And I think it's really important. As far as plant-based and sugar-free, yes, I think that that's definitely doable. Plant-based is amazing for, you know, improving our health on many, many, many levels, because when we're eating animal products, if we don't know how those animals were raised, if we don't know what those animals ate, we are basically consuming whatever garbage they also ate. And that's why I'm always stressing about, you know, organic, about pasture raised or grass fed, you know, livestock, about hormone-free, antibiotic-free. You really have to do your research. Luckily for us, I'm just going to plug my sister here a little bit, because obviously they have a halal organic chicken and egg farm, and it's been huge for our community where we live, because it's the only one of its kind. And they allow the chickens to graze and eat what's their natural diet. They don't force feed them things that are not their natural diet, and they are running around. So one of the things when you mentioned about when you eat food in Kenya, I think even poultry wise, you would have noticed a difference, because any animal that is being raised, farm raised, is being raised within crowded conditions, just for human consumption. That animal is already inflamed. That animal already has a lot of things going on in its body and in its meat that's unhealthy. When animals are allowed to run around and graze and move, and they're happy and they're getting sunshine and they're with, you know, their mates, and they're relaxed and chilled like you are in Zanzibar there, then those are happy, healthy, that's happy, healthy meat. So I know with plant-based, anybody who's had, like I think I mentioned this before, if I have someone who comes to me because they've got cancer, they've got some kind of cardiovascular blockage in their arteries, there's some kind of autoimmune condition, there are many conditions. If they will not go vegetarian for a period of time, I won't even treat them.
Wow. Okay.
For a period of time, not forever.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of power in those plants and in herbs and spices, and the Prophet spoke about it also.
That's fantastic. Good, good to know. You know, some of the comments on the oil. Some of the comments on the oil was avocado and coconut oils to be used as a healthy option.
Yeah, definitely avocado, coconut oil. You can even use extra virgin olive oil, but you cannot really cook at high temperatures with it. That will ruin the oil. Grass-fed ghee. I use grass-fed ghee here at home. I use grass-fed butter as well.
Yeah, I remember when we were growing up, it was all about ghee. And then you come here and people were like, no, ghee is not healthy. And then now we're back again to it being healthy.
Correct.
Okay, and then if we don't get enough sleep, can we make it up? Or how? Probably that is the question.
So unfortunately, we have this misconception that we can catch up on sleep. You can't really catch up. You can catch up on rest. So it's two different concepts. Okay, you can catch up on feeling rested, but you can't catch up on the sleep you've missed. All you can do is just make sure that you have, you know, better sleep each time. And the idea is for adults, generally, we want to sleep between 7 to 9 hours. Most of us, 7 to 9 hours, because a lot of us think that sleep is just this impartial, neutral thing, but there's a lot going on in sleep for our brain health, for our hormones. If you're not sleeping well, you're getting fatter. If you're not sleeping well, you're creating more cancer. So, you know, just do your best to be able to sleep, especially in the dark hours. We're the only species that is awake when it's nighttime. Unless you're a nocturnal animal for hunting, we're the only species that does that. And another problem with sleep, which we can maybe do a session on this by itself, is that if you're on your device, if you're on a digital device, a laptop or a TV, you know, minutes before going to sleep, you are disrupting the production of melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. So people should really try not to be reading emails just before sleep. Try to get off devices about an hour before bedtime, because this hormone that's produced was only produced in total darkness. I mean, when I say darkness, when you put your hand out in front of your face at night to sleep, you shouldn't be able to see it.
You're right. I think our lifestyles have definitely changed since the light bulb was created, for sure. Mavish has her hand up. So Mavish, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Faryal.
Walaikum salam.
Salam.
To everyone, Eid Mubarak. So I've just got a quick question in regards to the oils. Maybe I missed this before if you've already spoken about it. You know, omega oils and fish oils particularly, they really recommend that to sort of boost your either immune system, or I've heard that even it's good for like your brain health. And I've heard this from ND doctors as well for children. So my question to you is, you know, children, if they eat a diverse amount of food and get all their calories in their diet, how safe is fish oil to be given to, let's say, children or even for adults? Just thinking about the mercury level in regards to the fish oils.
Okay, so I spoke a lot about omega-3s in this presentation. I think you did miss that part. So you're welcome to, I'm sure, watch it. But you're right, it is definitely indicated for not just immune health, but for many other things. And omega-3s are the precursor to making a lot of our hormones and our brain chemicals. And this is why now the medical community is catching up and saying, oh yes, we need to take omega-3s. The naturopathic doctors have known that for decades. So it's very safe to give children. I do give it to children as well. Probably you would do better giving something like a cod liver oil to children if you can, because that also contains vitamin A and vitamin D, which they also need for their brain health. And yes, with omega-3s, because it's usually coming most of the time, it's a fish oil, there is a concern about mercury. So mercury is a heavy metal. It is something that if we ingest, it's going to be poisonous for us over the long run. And when fish are consuming mercury, and then we make an oil out of that fish, then we are potentially getting that mercury. So it's very simple. You have to make sure that you read labels. In the world of natural medicine, you have to look for products that state on the bottle that these are coming from good manufacturing practices, that, you know, it's mercury free and so on. And I should also point out that omega-3 doesn't just come from fish. I actually prescribe omega-3s that come from plants like flaxseed oil or a vegan omega oil, and also from algae. There's algae that produce omega-3, so you can also consider those if you don't want to do fish. Because I have a lot of vegetarian, vegan patients, they won't take a fish oil. So flaxseed oil, for example, is a good alternative.
Okay.
Excellent.
Sounds good. And the last question was related to the ghee. I know it's a natural source, and we try to get, you know, like the big buckets and try to be as healthy as possible. But for someone who has been told to try dairy-free, let's say, for health reasons, constipation, whatever, how do we go on about using ghee?
Yeah, so ghee is clarified butter. It's not, I wouldn't consider it dairy. Okay, if anybody's ever made, I know some of you on here may have even made your own ghee back in the day. But you can get, so what I'm trying to say is when I talk about dairy, it's coming directly from cows. And if those cows were, again, raised with antibiotics, hormones, they're being factory farmed. You know, there are livestock on this planet whose feet have never touched grass. I mean, it is so sad and it is so cruel that we are raising these animals just for us to eat them. And these animals have never actually been on grass. So there are some ethical things there, but there are definitely implications to our health. So that's what I mean when I say dairy. If you were to get like organic dairy, and if your body can tolerate it and you don't have a condition where you can't have dairy, then that's okay. Clarified butter for me is kind of like yogurt. I don't consider yogurt to be dairy because it's fermented. So the benefits are greater than the non-benefits. Does that make sense?
Got it. Okay.
You just have to make sure it's a good quality. Like, luckily here, I can get a grass-fed ghee.
Okay, so it has to be proper,
yeah,
proper origin. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great advice. Thanks, Faryal. We'll take the last question. I know we can keep Faryal engaged throughout the day if we had to. And, you know, she has been so nice and kind to us. She's taken her time and be with us. So Shazim, yours is the last question. Lucky man, go ahead.
Yes. So we
A
have
bit loud, we can't hear you.
we have a small store where we import.
Shazim,
Shazim, we can't hear you.
we can't hear you.
Turn up your volume.
Bring the computer closer to you.
Can you hear me now?
Very faint. No, we can't. Is there a way you can increase the microphone volume there?
Any better now?
A little bit, yeah.
We barely hear you, so yeah, go ahead. We'll try.
Okay, I'll try to speak a little louder.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we operate a small grocery store that we import organic fruits and vegetables from the Caribbean. And I mean, most of our food is organic, but mind you, it's very hard to authenticate something is organic. And I mean, Farhan, when you talk about that, the fake news that's on social media, it actually, from a business perspective, it benefits us, because when there's some fake news about, let's say, Cervisi tea or something, it flies off the shelf. So from a business perspective, it's good. However, what I wanted to mention, and I would like Faryal's feedback on that, is that we have a lot of customers that come and tell us if something is seedless, it is GMO. Have you ever come across that? Let's say a tangerine or an orange or lemons that don't have seeds in it are GMO.
Yeah, good question. So if those of you who didn't hear, Shazim is basically saying that they operate a grocery store that carries a lot of organic produce, fruits, vegetables. I think that's what you said. Organic can be very difficult for people to get, true organic certification. This is true, but it is getting better. It is getting better. I mean, from my sister's perspective, from Bahar and Shahir's point of view, they had to go through a lot of hoops before they could say that their chicken is truly organic. So it is getting better. The question is, if fruits are seedless, does that automatically mean they are GMO? So the only way I can answer that is, look, there are different species of fruits that are even the same fruit, right? You might have different species of orange or different species of apple. You have to know what the original species had. If there were seeds in them, then if all of a sudden there are no seeds, then yes, something's been modified. So a lot of fruits contain seeds. This is how they are able to then, grow and multiply and continue, to be produced. So I think it depends. I mean, if you have a specific example, like if you said to me all of a sudden, oh, I have mangoes, but these mangoes are seedless or without that thing, I would be like, oh my goodness, I'm not sure I'm going to be eating that stuff.
So if I may add, Shazim, coming from the farming background, we used to graft seedless limes, right? So there is some level of, and I think that particular lime was somewhere from the Polynesia or something, right? So again, it had a lot to do with the original plant being seedless. So not everything seedless is GMO, but the possibility does exist, and it's high for anything that is seedless that to have
We do have
modified.
a lot of customers that are like very organic people that are very specific with getting organic stuff. And if they cut a lemon or if they cut a lime or a papaya, and there's a lot of papayas that come that are seedless, and mind you, they're very sweet. But if they don't see seeds, they just don't want it. Mostly for citrus fruits, oranges, tangerines, even grapes, they say if it has no seeds, we don't want it.
Yeah, so I think what we're both saying, Shazim, is that if the fruit originally, if there is a species of that fruit that comes seedless, it is very possible that it is a seedless fruit. But if it is something that generally always had a seed and all of a sudden doesn't, then I think there will be some questions regarding that. Now, I also want to point out that a lot of seeds in fruits that most of us actually throw out, interestingly, a lot of those seeds have very powerful health benefits. So if you are somebody that's eating grapes, eat the grapes with the seeds. When I have watermelon, I know it may sound crazy, I eat the seeds, because the seeds contain something called a cyanide or cyanin. It's a derivative of that, which is going to kill cells that are behaving badly in our cells, in our bodies. So there's a reason that these fruits also contain the seeds besides just being able to be reproduced. There are health benefits to these things. Apples, if you can make a smoothie and blend the seeds with this apple, that's what you should do.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing as
Not all of them. Some of them are not going to taste good, but I'm just saying in general. So you're right. It's a tricky thing. I don't have a farming background. Farhan, I mean, you can, add to that. But I think if it didn't have a seed at some point in its life, most probably it's okay.
right. So I guess talking about the benefits, I know even papaya seeds are very beneficial. But talking about the origin of the seed, then it becomes impossible to know if that was originally seedless or not. You know what I mean?
Then that's what you tell your customers. It's impossible to know. How would you really know?
Yeah, and if I may add into that, so, like I said, when grafting happens for, um, you know, commercial farming, right? And then you regraft again, there's a slight change to the end product. So as it's being multiply regrafted, the end product would change from the original. So if, I told you that we grow Hawaiian popo seeds that come from Hawaii, but from the University of Hawaii there, um, those have been modified. I don't know if it's GMO modified or not, but, when it comes to the farm, we grow it. The locals take it. They like the taste and the smell and the color of the papaya. They grow the seeds, and it diminished that. And then when you ask the locals where it came from Alu's farm rather than it came from Hawaii, right? So it's difficult when it's commercially farmed. It's very difficult to pinpoint where it came from, and it's a challenge. It definitely is a challenge. So there's no one single answer to your question. Hope
Doesn't
we've
seem very satisfied.
hope
Sorry,
we've
Shazim.
we've tried to address it as best, from Faryal's side and from the farming side too.
Yeah, I totally understand. But when we ask for organic certificates from all these countries that we import from, everybody's sending us certificates that our stuff is organic, but yet it doesn't look organic because it looks so.
You have to remember, Shazim, every country is going to have its own rules about what is considered organic. So you have to also keep that in mind. If you're getting produce from Jamaica standards for what is considered organic will not be the same as Canada standards, right? So that also complicates things.
As well as, if it's from Kenya as well, I could give you certificates from my own organization, right? Printed on my laser printer too. So you have to be very cautious with those things, and especially the countries of origin. So I hope we've answered your question. Again, I don't want to keep everyone for too long. And I know Shazim's been doing a lot of research on GMOs and stuff. Maybe one day we can have him talk about it too, inshallah.
Absolutely. I've been doing a lot of research, but I can't get to the end of it because it's just never ending. It's hard to authenticate and verify, but we'll get there eventually.
No, inshallah, we'll see. Once there's tighter restrictions and tighter guidelines from all these countries that get together, hopefully, we'll see something. But just like in, cybersecurity in IT, if you're trying to trace a hacker, it's difficult because it goes through so many different jumps into different houses and all that. By the time you catch up with them, they're long gone. So yeah, it's tough, but one will get there, inshallah. So what I would like to do, those who have come here from America, please raise your hands. Let us know where you're from. At least let's get to know each other. If you can put your camera on, that would be nice so we can see you as well. I will start off with people from America. So I can see Nazir Osman has raised his hand. Fauzia Keval, she's raised a hand. Okay, that's Mariam Masi, Amal as well from the US, Aslam as well. There we go. Imran has raised his hand as well. I really appreciate all you guys taking the time and joining. We had, Alhamdulillah, we had about 36 participants today. So Faryal, that says a lot about, how much you can attract people as well. Aslamba as well. People want to listen to you. Shazim, you were amazing. I'm sure we'll get more people now that you've been there as well. And Sahir also opened up the duas for us. Well, inshallah, we'll have more of these sessions. I really appreciate it. Anybody else who is from another country apart from Canada here, apart from you, Dr. Faryal? Anyone else? Raise your hand. At least we've got people from UK here too. So it's nice to see them too. And that's, I believe, Sabah. That's my niece, my brother from England as well. He's there.
Nice.
Excellent. No, this is the kind of thing. We're at a point that because of virtual, we can reach out to people across the world that can take their time and join us. And this is the whole intention as well. So everyone who's joined us, I can't thank you enough. You've made this a great success. And obviously to Adamba, Shazim, Sahir, and Dr. Faryal, you guys made this worth joining, right? So inshallah, when we have the next session, and again, I ask everyone, let us know what topics you want to hear. We can try and get more people. Our next session will be on real estate and new time buyers for property as well. So Kalimba Karatela, who will be here, he will be talking about an investment opportunity and what's there in the market. And then we have Atifa, his niece, who will be talking about financing. So she works at the bank. So inshallah, we'll see everybody for that one as well. And then we will have more sessions on health and cooking. So today we've addressed health. Next year we'll address wealth. And next session will be wealth. And back to health again. Maybe some suggestions on what you want to see cooking. Maybe Mahamri and Brahazi. Who knows? We might do that next. So with that said, I want to say thank you very much to everyone. Eid Mubarak. Those who want to leave, feel free. And those who want to chat, you can too. So I know it's been a while since we all met up. Majavi, thank you very much. Mare join kya. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you Farhan for your added effort. Eid Mubarak to everybody. Murray, California. Miss you guys. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. And salam and Eid Mubarak to all of you. Khuda Hafiz.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak. Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz, everyone.
Karen Masi, good day. Anjo camera off. Okay, she left. Okay. Nice. So nice to see everyone. I mean, especially the elders that we haven't been able to meet with.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
this is really good. Amreen, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Good to see you. Eid Mubarak, everyone.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Maria Masi, nice to see you guys.
Nice to see you all.
Eid Mubarak. I
Eid
was
Mubarak.
here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hafiz.
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 Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.